Hello and welcome to another Smaulgld live stream. It is the 28th of January, Monday night, 2019. Tonight's topic, lots of topics. Big news day today, banning conspiracy videos on YouTube, end of the Mueller probe, a Venezuelan invasion. Also couldn't fit it all in the headline. There's some news on China, election 2020, and news on the shutdown as well. We're going to get to all that, and but first let's take a look, as we always do, at our markets and the movements during the day. So we're going to start with gold and silver. Now gold and silver today were not really newsworthy. The gold and silver prices were pretty much flat, but let's take a look at them anyway. So the gold price today was down a little bit. Down pretty much nowhere. It was down 43 cents or down 0.03%. And silver, same thing, down a little bit. Silver price today down a penny, and that was down 0.08%. So it was down a little less than gold, a little more than gold, but both insignificant amounts. Gold right now at 1303, silver at 1572, pretty much where they both ended the day. And the gold-silver ratio, as you can guess, didn't move hardly at all. And there she is, coming in at 82.88 to 1. That was another quick story I just want to cover here. Someone put this together. I thought it was interesting. Turkish gold coin sell 28%. In 2018, and a lot of people, it sounds odd to them when you say, well, Turkey's having problems and they should be buying gold, and if they are smart, they are buying gold, all that kind of stuff. Remember, when your currency is trashed and your currency has become devalued, you can't really buy much gold. The time to buy gold or silver is when your currency is strong, hint, like the United States dollar. So right now, you should actually, I mean, this is the whole argument that people make. It's a buying opportunity. If indeed you believe that your currency, if it's the dollar, is going down, the time to buy your gold and silver is before it goes down. And I guess that's been the rationale why people have been telling people to buy gold, because they keep saying dollar collapse, end of dollar hegemony, and all that stuff. But really, it's the other currencies that have had their bad days and their bad years. The Russian ruble, Kazakhstan tenge, the Turkish lira, the Iranian rial. Those are currencies that have been clobbered. And of course, if you had gold or silver before those currencies got clobbered, Argentine peso, you clearly would have held on to some of the values far better than if you had just stuffed those Argentine pesos under your mattress. But you can see here, he mentions, it's important, the devaluation of the Turkish lira to the US dollar made gold prices in Turkish lira expensive, which hampered sales. That's right. They may want to have gold. They may think they shouldn't have Turkish lira. But when your currency drops 40%, that means you can buy 40% less gold. But it also means because your purchasing power has been reduced by 40%, you don't have any currency to save. So if you were doing okay, and let's say in Turkish lira, and you were making a decent living where maybe you could put aside $50 to $100 a month, well, with the inflation because of the Turkish lira, you're now in the hole probably. Maybe you just managed to pay your monthly expenses. Maybe you don't. Well, if you can only manage to pay your expenses or you're in the hole, you certainly aren't going to be able to buy gold. And if you are still ahead of the game, let's say your monthly expenses all paid, you're able to save $500 a month. And now with the Turkish inflation, you're only able to save $50 to $100. Okay, maybe you buy gold, but before you may have been buying $500 worth of gold a month, and now you can only buy $50 of gold. So that's just an important point, that as your currency deflates, those countries are not buying gold. It's not they know it's coming. It's already come to them, and they're hosed. So the time to get your gold and silver, as they say, is before a currency crisis. But the issue is whether you have properly analyzed whether the dollar is going to have a currency crisis. Now, we've been hearing about that for dozens of years, if not more. Eventually, the story goes that all fiat currencies do indeed collapse. But so far, the dollar's holding strong. Let's go to the dollar index. It's at 95.72. That is, I got to bring up a chart. Maybe tomorrow night we'll look at a longer-term chart of the dollar index, but close to multi-year highs at the moment. Now, the Dow Jones was down 200 points today, but it had been down almost 350 points. So it closed at 24,528, down 0.84%. NASDAQ down 1.11% to 7,085. S&P 500 down 0.78% or 20 points, down to 2643. Over at the cryptocurrencies, they took a dive this morning. They recovered somewhat. Currently, Bitcoin is at 34.34, down 2.72%. Bcash took a big hit, down 7.5% at $111. Ethereum down 5% at $105. And Litecoin rebounded nicely from the hit it took this morning. It's only down about 2.5% at $31.15. All right, let's get to some of the news here. There's plenty of news. Do we have anything else in the cryptos? Oh, yes, we do. We're going to talk about Venezuela, but in no particular order. Here's the story here. People are using alternative currencies. Here's a guy named Eduardo. He says, this is how one of my friends back in Venezuela is surviving. And then he hashtags Bitcoin. For all its troubles, Venezuela has cheap electricity, however. So they say that people mine Bitcoin, Litecoin, and other cryptocurrencies, and they use those to pay for their groceries. I'm not sure. I mean, it's hard for me to verify this. I'm not a reporter in the sense that I don't go on site. I do online research. This could be just somebody's rig here. I don't know if it's in Venezuela. You can't tell how many Bitcoin or Litecoin, whatever this person is doing. But it's anecdotal, so I show it. And we're going to get to something very anecdotal. Well, let's do it now. The other day, I mentioned that actually did a midday live stream that the guy who runs Van Eck, the guy's name is Van Eck, was saying that Bitcoin investors this year preferred gold in 2019 as their preferred asset. Whereas in 2017, as the price was rising, that was the big year, they were into Bitcoin. And I remember on that particular live stream, I said, I don't know what they mean by a Bitcoin investor. Because if you're a Bitcoin investor and you're buying gold, well, you're really a gold investor. And I was wondering who he had surveyed. And I went on the Van Eck website. I couldn't find any survey of 4,000 or so people that he said were interested in buying gold this year as opposed to Bitcoin. It was just what he said. He said Bitcoin investors were more interested in preferred gold in 2019. I just thought it was a strange thing, because if you identify yourself as a Bitcoin investor and you prefer gold, well, then you're really a gold investor, or you're a Bitcoin investor who also likes gold. And it seems to be that's actually what happened. I haven't got confirmation, but Gabor Gurbax, he works at Van Eck, and he's the guy leading the charge to get the Van Eck Bitcoin ETF. And he did this poll a couple of days ago, and it looks like there were over 4,000 votes. And he asked, what type of assets do you plan to own in the future besides Bitcoin and digital assets? Vote and retweet to get a good sample. So I guess these are the Bitcoin investors. Well, they said, and there's no surprise here, that many Bitcoin investors are also interested in precious metals, gold and silver, and vice versa. Many primary gold and silver investors are interested in cryptocurrencies as well. But if he's talking about this here, yes, so people who are invested in Bitcoin and digital currencies, 41%, plan on buying gold. There's no news there. I don't know why he mentioned it. And he actually, in the interview with CNBC, he raised it as if it was some type of revelation. And the other percentages here, diversified broad market stocks, emerging markets, other comments, please, says Gabor Gurbax. Now, I wrote to him, and he liked my comment, but he didn't respond to it. Probably, I don't know if that's asserting that or agreeing that I was correctly characterizing Van Eck's position, meaning that he was referring to this particular poll. He may have been referring to other data, but that didn't make much sense. This seems to be what it is. And I said, this poll asked what assets besides Bitcoin, not instead of. The inference has been Bitcoin investors prefer to gold to Bitcoin. In that interview, that's what the inference was. That this year, Bitcoin investors prefer gold. Maybe they prefer gold to other assets other than Bitcoin, but the way the poll was written wasn't, you're a Bitcoin investor, what do you like this year? And they say, oh, I like gold. Oh, I guess you don't like Bitcoin this year. That's how it came off to me in the way he said it. And then I said, Van Eck mischaracterized this poll. If this poll was what he was referring to in his CNBC interview, he said Bitcoin investors preferred gold in 2019, inferring they like gold instead of Bitcoin, not what they liked besides or in addition to Bitcoin. Just wanted to clarify that because I reported on it. I had trouble with explaining it without having the poll data that he referred to. I guessed maybe it was institutional investors. I guessed maybe it was Van Eck clients. I'm guessing now, and I could be wrong, that he was actually referring to this poll that was a Twitter poll taken by his subordinate here, Gabor Gorbaks. It's a good follow. He follows the cryptocurrency. He's been making the big case for the Bitcoin ETF, but I'm pretty sure, I mean, I could be wrong, there may be another poll, but the way he worded it didn't make sense to me, and now it makes more sense. Not the way he explained it, but if he meant to say that Bitcoin investors also like gold, and that almost half of them would be buying gold as opposed to other assets other than Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies this year. All right, let's move on from the cryptocurrencies. And no, I'm sorry. Hold on a little bit. We got more. JP Morgan popping off today, mentioning that blockchain is overhyped and won't change the world anytime soon. That's possible. Poured cold water on blockchain technology. Nouriel Roubini did the same thing. He was saying that a blockchain is nothing more than a glorified ledger. And to a certain extent, that's true. If you're running a centralized blockchain, that's just updating your technology. But a decentralized blockchain is a bit different. The verification processes, the security, it actually is a big deal. And that's the whole Bitcoin, a blockchain, not Bitcoin argument. We're not going to get into that tonight, but JP Morgan's out with that. Nouriel Roubini was in Davos saying the same thing. Now, JP Morgan also made another point. He said cryptos would only have value in a dystopian economy. Now, there's truth to that. I just showed you the Venezuelan, where that guy, presumably that is a real picture of someone's real house with a little Bitcoin mining rig set up, and then makes sense. And I think Mohammed El-Arian, formerly of PIMCO, he made the same point, that the use case for Bitcoin people have been pushing is Venezuela. And yes, but the world isn't Venezuela. And one, just like with gold and silver, people hoping for the collapse so they can get rich, maybe not. Now, El-Arian, what he was saying was that there's other cases for Bitcoin as well, and JP Morgan appears to be saying here, only have value in a dystopian economy. Okay, what else have we got here? This guy, Harold Schultz, he is the former CEO of Starbucks, and he's thinking about running as an independent for president, calling himself a moderate. Also, Bloomberg, the guy, Bloomberg, said today that he will not run as an independent, but he may run as a Democrat. But back to Schultz, he says a trusted digital currency is coming, but it won't be Bitcoin. Because I'm sure he's up on all this stuff and he figured it all out. And we also heard from Charlie Lee. Charlie Lee is the creator of Litecoin, and he said fungibility is the only property of sound money that is missing from Bitcoin and Litecoin. Some would say other than intrinsic value, but let's move on from that. Now that the scaling debate is behind us, I guess he's figuring block size and Lightning Network. We're not going to have to worry about scaling. The next battleground will be on fungibility and privacy. I am now focused on making Litecoin more fungible by adding confidential transactions. So the idea, I believe, is initially that is going to be an opt-in. The danger with making your coin a privacy coin, you could run afoul of regulators, because if they can't track and trace it, then it may not end up on the exchanges, and they may try to track and trace it. Now, I think what he's saying is initially he wants to make it, because of that reason, an opt-in, but he says if it was mandatory, then it'd be even more private and more secure. We'll have to see where that goes. All right, so that is it for the cryptocurrencies. China today in the news. This is big news. Hawaii, that I pronounce it right, but that telecom company, just an hour or so ago, the U.S. Justice Department leveled multiple criminal charges against that company, accusing the company of stealing trade secrets and defrauding banks. I thought this woman here was somebody in the government. I think she's just the person introducing the people that brought these charges, and that would be, there you go, Whitaker, DOJ, and Ray, FBI, the two guys in charge of those departments. So this throws a spanner in the works for the negotiations between China and the United States, because this becomes a much bigger deal. Now that there's a large Chinese company that has now facing these criminal charges. So I'm sure China is going to want to have some leverage and want to get something in return for, or try to get this person extradited home and not charged. I mean, I don't know how they're going to handle this. I mean, they've been indicted. This one is different than when Mueller indicted the Russian troll farm, because those Russians were never going to face any justice. They were back in Russia and nothing was going to happen to them here. But when you indict a company that actually exists here, sells stuff here, may even have officers or CEOs or whoever that are up high in the company, they could be subject to those charges. So this is actually an indictment with teeth, and I'm sure China's not happy about that at all. And in news today, China always looking to get the stimulus going, because that's how they run their economy. China's top financial regulatory agency urged insurance companies to invest more of their massive trillions of dollars worth of assets in equities, meaning buy stocks. Buy stock. Insurance companies who should be concerned about having a portfolio of assets that meet their risk profile so that they can pay out on claims. But it looks like the regulatory agency of China is saying you got to buy more stocks. It's the patriotic thing to do. See how that's all going to turn out with the Chinese Ponzi scheme. Venezuela. Let's move on to Venezuela. Some big news in Venezuela. This just in. U.S. to seize all of socialist dictator Maduro's financial assets. This is Trish Reagan. I think she's at Fox News. Now I got to wonder how it feels for him when his money gets taken like he stole from his people. Sure no one's going to be crying over that. Then, sanctions. Bolton. White House National Security Advisor Bolton says we continue to expose the corruption of Maduro and his cronies, and this ensures that they can no longer loot the assets of the Venezuelan people. Now, a year or so ago, I'd actually had a headline saying that I didn't make it up. I was listening to, no, I didn't listen. I read the transcript of Nikki Haley's speech to the United Nations, and she actually mentioned the word blockade of Venezuela. Now, I don't know what she meant by that. You don't know what you meant by that. What she meant could have been just not allowing the oil to come into the United States, or I read into it that she was signaling an actual military blockade where nothing can come in and out, somewhat towards what the United States wanted to do during the Cuban Missile Crisis. But that sounds warlike or bellicose, and she actually didn't say a military blockade. However, look at this. This just in. 5,000 troops to Colombia to quell Venezuelan crisis. Now that appeared supposedly on, this looks like a joke. He's holding on to a notebook. He scribbled some notes on there, and supposedly, and again, I can't confirm this, but this is in the news, if confirmed, no, if true, a serious operations security classified breach supposedly says to stability 5,000 troops to Colombia. Now, is that going to be the United States sends the troops there on the border, invades Venezuela, tries to take over and install the other president that they've recognized? I don't know. But all this kind of stuff, this is all the international turmoil. This is the kind of stuff that has potential also to rile China and to rile Russia. So we'll have to see what's going to happen there. Not a good idea for this guy to be walking around with a note. If he did do this, I mean, people can take pictures. You see the one where Trump is sitting at his desk and he holds up the sign that shows some executive order he signed and people write something else on it. But this appears to be something that he's written there, and you can see it there. Affirmation. I can only read totaling 5,000 troops to Colombia. That's what I see. Totaling 5,000 troops to Colombia. But again, that could all just be fake news. Don't know, but it's out there, so I mention it. Now the Mueller investigation. This just in too. Just let's get caught up here. The United States has had Sessions as the Attorney General. He resigned recently, and he was recused from the Mueller investigation from oversight. Normally, the Attorney General would oversee a special counsel, but in this instance, he allowed, because he recused himself, we're not going to go into all the reasons there, he had his Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, overseeing Mueller. And Rod Rosenstein really should have recused himself too, because he was involved in signing the Pfizer warrant, which is one of the key components of the Mueller investigation, because that was the impetus to have the investigation based on the information that was contained in the Pfizer warrant. He also wrote a memo recommending that James Comey be fired. Now, that is also seems to be one of the focus of the Mueller investigation, that Trump firing Comey was some type of obstruction of justice. Without getting into the merits of that claim, doesn't matter. Rosenstein would be a witness in that because he wrote a memo recommending that Trump fire Comey. In fact, he can actually even be himself a subject in the investigation if he wrote a memo recommending that Comey be fired. Now, he didn't write the memo saying Comey should be fired because he was after Trump, but the point is, Rosenstein shouldn't have been involved in overseeing Mueller, and Sessions wasn't overseeing him. So what happened was Sessions quit. This guy named Whitaker, you just saw at the press conference for the indictment of the Chinese company, he took over as interim Attorney General, and Rod Rosenstein is still there. However, Rod has been relieved of his duties of overseeing Bob Mueller because Whitaker didn't recuse himself. Now, Bob Barr should be appointed or should be confirmed this week. He will come in and Whitaker will go, or we're not sure what's going to happen to Whitaker, whether he'll stay on, maybe he becomes the deputy, we don't know. Rosenstein has said he'll stay on until for a transition period, but he's probably gone. Now, Whitaker says today, the acting Attorney General, that the Mueller investigation is near completion. Makes sense. So now they have wrapped up all of their indictments or people they want to arrest and raid, and they're probably going to issue their report. And it's probably well timed to issue the report to coincide when Barr comes in. And then Barr will read the report, Barr will go through everything, and we're not going to speculate tonight about all the different possibilities about that and what Barr may do or how he may act as Attorney General based on his prior statements, his prior memos, and his prior stint as Attorney General for George Herbert Walker Bush. But it's important to note that Whitaker is the acting attorney general. This isn't a leak. He says that it's nearly over, and since he is the one who's responsible for the oversight, for him to say that means he's got him to the point where he understands what Mueller is doing, and Mueller is pretty much finishing up. The wall. We got to get back to the shutdown here. Remember, we got 3 weeks now to come up with a deal. A Trump deal, a Pelosi deal, to either have a wall or not have a wall. And so far, it doesn't look like Trump believes that there's going to be a deal. And the reason for that is the Democrats can't let him have it, and he has to have it. So that is, we mentioned, the irresistible force and the immovable object. And the way around that is either there's some type of compromise, or Trump then declares some type of national emergency, and then it goes to courts, and it gets stopped, and then it gets litigated. But there doesn't seem to be any interest in negotiating, because Nancy Pelosi is also saying that, this is her tweet, Roger Stone's indictment makes clear there was a deliberate, coordinated effort by the Trump campaign officials to subvert the will of the American people during the 2016 election. Follow the facts. Well, the indictment doesn't make clear that, and this is another case of we have to read the bill, to find out what's in it. The indictment I read doesn't make clear that the Trump campaign went through a deliberate and coordinated effort to subvert the will of the American people. What it made clear was that Stone was alleged to have lied about his contacts in trying to find out information, which is different than subverting the will of the American people. The indictment makes clear that they think that Stone is guilty of lying to federal investigators and to Congress. But it's that type of thing. And she went on to say that what does Putin have on Trump? So basically she's attacking him and assuming his guilt, which means that she doesn't want to deal with him. She wants to treat him as if, I can't bargain in good faith, I cannot negotiate in good faith with you because you're essentially illegitimate, because that's what she's basically saying here, is that the Trump campaign did all these, inferring from an indictment, which apparently she didn't read, according to this Stone indictment that was handed down in part and parcel of his raid on his house the other morning. Now, Trump says, which is obvious, that another government shutdown is almost a certainty. And he told the Wall Street Journal, I think it was Sunday night, that there's less than a 50% chance a deal could be reached to fund his requested border wall. I wouldn't expect there to be a deal, other than the only way you're going to get a deal, you'd have to get, there's supposedly like these 30 Democrats that are interested in border security. And if this wasn't Trump, this wouldn't even be an issue, because there already are parts of walls and fences all across the border. They're just parts where there aren't. And that's really, it's just a fix-up operation to get more. Well, what they've done is because it's Trump, they've characterized the wall as immoral, as not being effective, and so on. But, or a waste of money, which is kind of rich coming from anyone in Congress who wastes money left and right in much larger amounts than the $5.7 billion. So again, this is going to lead to more uncertainty in government and more turmoil. And it's kind of the stuff that I expected, most of us expected from day one, but it hasn't really roiled the markets or made any impact on gold or silver, because this is the kind of stuff that gold lives for. International turmoil, trade wars between China and the United States, special counsel investigation into Russian collusion, that the president might be some type of Russian agent, potential invasion of Venezuela. And yet, now those are just a few of the things we've been dealing with. Brexit, but the stock market, well, it has come down in the last few months, and it's rebounded nicely, about 12% in the last 5 weeks. But gold has been essentially flat during the Trump administration. Same with silver, and we haven't really seen all this turmoil really impact the markets, people not necessarily looking for safe havens. And any one of these stories really could blow up. Now, before we move on to the topic of the evening, which is this conspiracy video thing, very interesting news coming out of YouTube. Well, we have the 2020 field for the Democrats really shaping up. And guess who also wants to throw her hat in the ring? Hillary Clinton. She's not closing the doors on this. Now you got Kamala Harris has already said she wants to run. You got a guy named Delaney. You've got Bloomberg saying he might run. You've got Schultz saying he might run. Beto O'Rourke will probably run. Cory Booker will probably run. Holder might run. There's so many people. Biden might run that may run. You may have 13 to 15 Democrats running for president in 2020, and that'll start pretty soon. But Hillary is not gone away, and she is ready to go. Now, this guy Schultz, he's the former CEO of Starbucks. Now, remember, he was the whole he gets involved politically all the time with his initiatives, and he had Holder, former Attorney General Holder, help give a seminar to Starbucks employees on how to not racially profile customers. There had been an incident at the store about a year ago. But he's no longer the CEO of Starbucks, and he's saying, I love our country, and I'm seriously considering running for president as a centrist independent. Now, most commentators believe that would merely be a way of siphoning votes from the Democratic candidate, because Howard Schultz would not appeal to Trump voters. He would only appeal to, it would appear, I would think, to traditional Democrat voters who maybe don't want to see any of the Democratic candidates. They may want somebody who's not in the party, somebody who's a businessman like Trump, figuring he'd be the best foil to somebody rather than putting another politician up. But the general consensus amongst, I've read so many comments, is that this guy would pull votes from the Democrats. So even if the Democrats ran a strong candidate, this guy would still get a certain percentage of votes if he was on the ballot. And he may not get on the ballot as an independent, but generally people with a lot of money, they can get themselves on the ballot. Ross Perot ran as an independent. He got himself on many of the ballots. It's a very difficult thing for an independent nationwide to get on the ballot. But, and I mentioned here, maybe he takes Holder as his VP. Seems to be buddies with him. And what's going to happen, though, and be very interesting, I think, is that the Democrats are going to go left and lefter. I mean, they are all going to try to convince each other that they're more against Trump than the other candidates. I think the winning strategy for one of the candidates would be, and it sounds like blasphemy, is to say, I can work with this. You know, I can get in there and make the country whole again without saying I'm going to take the country in a direction totally away from where Trump was. Because if you try to run too far left, you're going to alienate those who think that whatever Trump has accomplished through by 2020, if you try to undo all of that just because Trump did it, that may not be the winning candidate. I think the candidate who comes out and says, some of the stuff Trump did, okay, that's fine, but we have to do this, whatever their platform is going to be. But I guarantee you, every one of them is going to try to be more anti-Trump than any other candidate. And that could backfire, because that'll bring them, I think, very far left if they do that. All right, now, this was very interesting. I haven't seen anyone really reporting on this, so I'm going to mention it. I think it's a big story here. So let's take a look. It's kind of moronic, but it is the state of play in social media today.
Uh-oh, we got a moron here.
Presenting the distinguished international news commentator and foreign correspondent.
This has been an extraordinary week in world affairs.
No, I told Hillary Clinton that that's moronic.
All right, there was a story, and I have the actual YouTube blog post. It came out the other day that says that they are going to, YouTube is going to make these conspiracy videos harder to find. Now, I know that a lot of YouTube channels have seen a reduction in their page views and their likes and so on. And even though they've got significant numbers of subscribers, now some people also say they've lost subscribers. I don't follow this stuff that much, given that my channel is small and it's not, I don't really have much variation in subscribers and or views and likes. Generally, every video gets about 500-600 views. If I have something that's a little more edgy title, like Game Over, Game Changer, or Stunning Chart, that will attract non-Smaulgld subscribers, and they'll come and they'll get pissed off because they'll realize that it's mocking some of the views they hold dear about their theories on why gold and silver are set to skyrocket, and they get pissed off. So I get a lot of dislikes. But normally on a given night, I have 500 or 600 views, and generally the comments are fine, and there's like 40 likes, 50 likes, 30 likes, very few dislikes. But for channels that are big, that are really big, that have had lots of subscribers, they've seen a fall off, and they've seen their channels demonetized. I don't have any monetization on there. I only pitch the mugs, and I pitch the I'll get to that in a minute. Forgot to mention, I forgot to mention I did receive some worthless dollars in the mail, so we're going to go through that. But a lot of the channels have been demonetized, so there clearly has been a move against a lot of channels to keep them down, either because they're politically incorrect, meaning they say stuff that they don't want said, or they're politically incorrect because they use bad language, racist language, sexist language, homophobic language, whatever it is. And also, YouTube has been making a pitch against the topics they don't like are anything against global warming, anything about the moon landing, that not being real, anything about the Kennedy assassination, anything about 9/11, and there's a couple of others. But I remember once I mentioned global warming, or I think it was in the title. And what they do is, if they see that, they then append to your video right below it, before you even, I should have taken a screenshot. They put a Wikipedia article explaining what 9/11 is or what global warming is, lest anybody listen to your video and get the wrong impression that the earth may be round instead of flat. So if you have a flat earth video, they will slap on like a Wikipedia article explaining why the earth is round. If you want to talk about 9/11 being some type of conspiracy, they'll explain all about there was a commission, the same with the Warren Commission. They'll put that up for so they don't want you, the moon landing, whatever it is, they don't want you producing videos. They don't want people getting this fake news. They don't want them learning that maybe the earth is flat, or whatever these or chemtrails. That's another one. They'll put up a Wikipedia article explaining the difference between condensation and so they're making an effort to, and have been through demonetization, but now they're saying what they're going to do is they're going to, instead of getting you on community guidelines. See, community guidelines mean, and those community guidelines are generally nebulous, but it's pretty much saying you've done something wrong. Like you have abused somebody's gender or sexuality or whatever it is. You can't put up naked pictures. You can't post videos of people doing stuff. You can't encourage violence. And then there's the hate content, and there's harassment, cyberbullying, spamming, and so on. Copyright videos, threatening. Those are all things that, or doxing people, or this bad behavior. Those are in the community guidelines, and they'll toss you for that. But they can toss you for saying, I think the earth is flat, and here's 17 reasons. Look at this picture. No, look at this picture. See? The earth is flat. And they didn't land on the moon, and Kennedy was killed by Richard Nixon. The whole... And if people want to express themselves now, I don't have a problem with it. Or you can listen to it. Now, I guess they get pissed off because people believe it. And I guess it's the same thing with gold, back, yuan, game changer. I mean, I see it all the time. They make up stuff, and I don't want those channels banned or you can't find them because they're making stuff. I mean, yeah, in some sense, some of these things are made up when they talk about why gold and silver is set to skyrocket. But if you want to believe that stuff, you want to watch it, I don't care. But YouTube doesn't. So here's what they have now. This is in the YouTube blog, official blog, Broadcast Yourself, continuing our work to improve recommendations on YouTube. So now instead of going after you on the community guidelines or saying, well, you're not afoul of the community guidelines, but this isn't suitable for our advertisers. So any way they can get at these channels that are out there promoting some type of truth in conspiracy, they're trying to shut them down. Now, sometimes they find another reason to shut the channel down. But I think they're getting frustrated that some of the channels don't run afoul of the guidelines. They're not interested in creating hateful content. They don't misgender anybody. They do everything right, except they're telling you 9/11 was an inside job, or they're telling you global warming is a crock. But they don't do anything wrong. Well, YouTube doesn't like that either. So, here's what they're saying. They're talking about how they make recommendations. And they're acting as if the community is upset about this. Because sometimes the recommendations aren't really to their liking. And they've been using this algorithm where they're trying to figure out whether they should just look at views, whether they should look at likes, dislikes, time spent. And they find that sometimes the recommendations are not really what people want. Now, I would think if you're interested in conspiracy theory, like if you're a flat earther or you're a 9/11 truther or you are a anti-global warming person, you're going to want to see all that stuff. If you're a gold, back yuan, game changer, I mean, that's what people do. They binge watch whatever conspiracy they're into. That's fine. It's just, if you want to see you want to see 16 channels telling you why silver is set to skyrocket because of a gold back yuan or whatever, that actually means the system works if that's what they show you. But then it says, more recently, people told us they were getting too many similar recommendations, like seeing endless cookie videos after watching just one recipe for snickerdoodles. No, I think what they're concerned about is somebody watches one flat earth video. They think, well, that's kind of interesting. That's kind of cool. And then they get recommended 10 more. And what do? They watch 10 more. Now YouTube is worried that that person has now gone down the flat earth rabbit hole. And he's going to become a flat earther if they don't improve, quote, improve the way they recommend videos. We can't have them now seeing endless anti-global warming videos. We can't have them seeing anti-9/11 truth videos. We have to kind of fix this. So it says, now we pull in recommendations from a wider set of topics, like something that's probably the opposite of what you're looking for. So if you're gone for flat earth and anti-global warming, well, the wider set of topics are going to be why the earth is going to burn to a crisp in 12 years. You're going to start seeing those. You're not going to see all of the global warming is a farce videos. You're not going to see the Warren Commission was correct. You're going to see the Warren Commission was correct if you start doing your recommendations on JFK's assassination. Because generally the way it works now is they show you similar videos. Well, that's the worst thing if you've gone down the path of binge watching stuff that they don't want you to watch. So they said, we've made hundreds of changes to improve the quality of recommendations for user on YouTube, but probably not enough. It says, this is the key part. We will will continue that work this year, including taking a closer look at how we can reduce the spread of content that comes close to, but doesn't quite cross the line of violating our community guidelines. What did I tell you? They really, you want to put out a video out there, it's about flat earth. It's not offensive in any way. It's not hateful. It's not making up stuff. It's just wrong, maybe. But they can't kick you off for that. They can demonetize you because they can say their advertisers are not interested in advertising on a flat earth channel. But then here's their announcement. And they bury it into this should be the headline. To that end, we'll begin reducing recommendations of, they call it, borderline content. And content that could misinform users in harmful ways. Such as videos promoting a phony miracle cure for a serious illness. Okay. Claiming the earth is flat. Okay. That's going to harm you. If you somehow watch a few videos and you walk away and you're convinced the earth is flat, I don't know how that harms you. I mean, it really doesn't matter what you think. If the earth actually is round and you believe it's flat, I don't know how that's harmful. I mean, if I want to believe the moon is made of blue cheese, it's not going to harm me. I mean, I don't even know what the problem with that is. If somebody wants to believe that the earth is flat, I don't know how they're harmed. I can understand the phony miracle cure for a serious illness. People go out and they drink 12 gallons of vinegar and their insides get all burned up. I can understand that. But claiming the earth is flat, harmful ways such as videos promoting a phony miracle cure for a serious illness, claiming the earth is flat, or making blatantly false claims about historic events like 9/11. Now that's when they really get annoyed, is if there is an anomaly in any type of historic event, and for example, the moon landing or 9/11, pointing that out, if that somehow could make somebody believe something different than the official story, well, then that's harmful. Now, they note, while this shift will apply to less than 1% of the content on YouTube, we believe that limiting the recommendations of these types of videos will mean a better experience for the YouTube community. Not for the person who wants to binge watch 9/11 videos and flat earth videos. They're basically saying, no. We know it's better. You don't want to believe the world is flat. You can't believe that. That's going to harm you. And you don't want any blatantly false claims about historic events. Now, the problem with historic events are recorded through eyewitnesses. There's no such thing as one version of an event. That's why when you have trials, there's different eyewitnesses, there's different things that happen. An event like, there's a big difference between 9/11 and flat earth. There's a big difference between flat earth and JFK assassination. There's a big difference between JFK assassination and global warming. All of these are along a spectrum of people can have different opinions. And then there's a thing that, well, there's science, and then there's fake science, and there's junk science. But again, if somebody has convinced themselves that the earth is flat, I'm not sure why they want you not to see them. They're making it sound like the YouTube community's experience is harmed. Well, if you're not a flat earther and you happen to watch one video, the algorithm should figure out, if you don't click on the other 16 flat earth videos that they recommend for you, that you're not interested in flat earth videos. You saw one, you thought it was stupid, and you're not going to watch anymore. But if you never get to see the other 17 of them, and you really want to believe that stuff, and you want to go see them, they're destroying your experience. And they're harming the channels that want to promote, I think, if they want to promote. They actually, I watched one of them, and I don't, there's like a dome, and there's just flat, and, why doesn't the water fall off of the equator? But again, it looks like what they're trying to do is, this is like a way where they can I think they've been criticized on the community guidelines. They'll tell somebody they violated the community guidelines, and you're like, how? How did I violate the community guidelines? Well, we're not going to tell you, but you violated community guidelines, so you're out of here. But now what they can do is they can, instead of having to face the hypocrisy of saying you violated the community guidelines, they could just make it so no one sees your video, because if you're in those types of topics that they mention, your stuff is not going to get recommended. It's not going to show up in the search, and then it's not going to apply. It's not going to be seen. And then it says, to be clear, this will only affect recommendations on what videos to watch, not whether a video is available on YouTube. Well, most people see, not most, but a good portion of videos are seen as recommendations. And if you have a class of topics like 9/11 or claiming the earth is flat, those videos are not going to show up then. They're not going to recommend them. Now, you're going to have to know the name of them, but who has the names of these flat earth videos? I don't know what to look up. I look up, let's do it right. Oh, I won't do it now. I'm going to do that when we get off. I'm going to see how many flat earth videos I can find just by doing a search. We think this change strikes a balance between maintaining a platform for free speech and living up to our responsibilities to users. See, this idea that they're living up to their responsibilities. I think the responsibility is it's a platform, and people can determine for themselves what they want to watch. I mean, if you want, you don't even have to believe flat earth stuff. You can just be amused by it. I'd like to see them. If now I'm interested in, because I've never been interested, and now I want to see them. Okay, well, that's what they're doing. It'll be interesting to see if this impacts other channels. I'm sure they don't have it for gold and silver conspiracy theories, but because there's plenty of those. Let's see what you guys are thinking in the comments. I forgot to mention, ASMR people mentioned to me, I was saying that I don't have a really good way of going through the comments because you guys half the time you're talking yourselves, and I'm not just going to read those. So if you want, by tomorrow, and I should have announced this at the beginning. Before I even get, let me finish what I was saying. If you want me to comment or have a question, put 3 asterisks before your chat comment so that I know to see it and to highlight it. What I wanted to show the I did get $5 today. I went to the mailbox and check it out. Somebody sent me fiat money. Remember I said if you think that the dollar is worthless and the dollar's days are numbered, send it right here. I mean, there you go. I was very happy to go to the post office. I don't go very often to the mailbox. But to see here, and the letter says, here you go, worthless fiat currency, hand-delivered by an agent of the United States government. I'm going to pin that one on the wall there. That's $5. That's a good $5. I will definitely keep that. Much appreciated. Thank the Smaulgld game-changing subscriber who sent that to me. The address, if you're interested in sending anything that's legal to send, you can send it to the Smaulgld P.O. Box, and I will give you again that, put that right back up. And remember, you can always buy the Smaulgld mugs as well. I do go to the post office and send them from there. So there you go. All right, let's see what comments you guys got, if any. Ann Holloman is going bowling tonight. That's interesting. I haven't been bowling in years. Yes, Pablo says it's going to be personal. China detained a few Canadians mysteriously after the Hawaii incident. Yep. American Supertramp. China's putting sanctions on U.S. mugs. I think it reads, says Pablo. He's referring to John Bolton's notepad. I think it reads, send 5,000 mugs to Colombia. Alright. I vote you, mug, says Jack A.G. Carl Joseph DeMarco is here. Yep. BitTube Jack is talking about BitTube. There is something. There's some type of decentral. I used to post on there. Somebody already posted all my videos on that thing. Then I reposted them and they didn't post. It's BitChute works very well. I haven't done this. I started BitTube. It's just too much to upload to every platform. But I do upload to BitChute. In fact, I would use that if everyone went over there and we had live streaming. I would do that. I used to do, I think it was called vid.me, and then it went away. I had like 300 followers on that, but then that went away. Then I post on Minds and Gab and Steemit. But the only video one that you can post, oh, and Real Video too, real.video, which is now, it's called something else, but I sign in under real.video. It's the one the Health Ranger has. All right. Hardcore Muggers Night, says Percenti Girl. Yeah, Pablo, what's the big deal with Earth is flat? I can understand from I guess if you're trying to hold on to the establishment. The 9/11 stuff, I understand why they're against that. Clearly, I understand why they want to push the global warming thing, and they don't want anybody denying that. But the flat Earth, I'm not sure why that one is considered dangerous. Same, I understand the Kennedy assassination. The moon landing, I used to think, why do they care? But I get why they care now. Because that would be that somehow the government is lying to you about the moon landing. But the flat Earth one, I don't see how that one's harmful, because that's not some type of official U.S. Well, maybe it is, but yeah, I don't know why that one is considered off topics. Yeah, believing in Santa Claus, that's right. Yep, Carl says, I don't get the whole flat Earth thing. Came out of nowhere. Even John B. Wells won't touch it. He's had some far out guests. The thing is, I'd be willing to listen to somebody come on the Smaulgld channel and tell me about the flat Earth. I mean, what do I know? I mean, I can't prove anything. I don't know anything, and but I don't know why. And if someone came on the channel and was talking about flat Earth, and I put on the title, flat Earth theory, whatever, YouTube would flag the video, and they'd put up their little Wikipedia article on there to make sure that no one came away listening to that video believing that the Earth was flat. Yeah, anti-global warming, about pumping global warming. Yeah, it's very odd. All right, let's see if there's anything else here. Pablo says next week YouTube will ban Smaulgld for pumping mug conspiracy of pumping the mug standard. Yes. Central banks are buying mugs. That is all you need to know. China will institute a mug standard. It will be Smaulgld mugs. That is why the mug is red. You can plainly see the Smaulgld mug is red. It is an appeal to China. That is all I need to know. And so I am buying all mugs that I can. I am stacking mugs. Okay, let's see what else we got here. All right, we got so many comments. But let's do this tomorrow. And the other way you can do it is when you @ Smaulgld. Andrew's done that in a comment. You can either put the 3, well, he's done it right here. He's put the 3 asterisks in the @ Smaulgld. That gets highlighted and I can see it. They are book burning and controlling the flow of information. Think about what that means and who is doing it. This is actually getting scary. It is. You see, there's a difference between a library and a platform. In a library, there is some curation. And you bring in books that are supposedly... there's a lot of crap in a library too. But the idea of a user-generated content is that there are people that are wackos and believe in stuff that's nuts. That's okay. They're out. I mean, just because you don't get to see their videos doesn't mean that people don't believe a lot of weird stuff. I think it's better to see that people don't believe a lot of stuff. I mean, I have people, well, I'll give you an example. Central banks are buying gold. That is all I need to know. Okay, there are people who believe that. Well, it's kind of stupid, but they believe it because they've cherry-picked a fact, and they believe that that's all they need to know. Well, it's good that I know that there are people out there who think that's all they need to know. If you were to ban videos that reflect what some people think, whether they don't think clearly or not, it's actually good to know that people believe stuff that doesn't make a stitch of sense. You need to know that that's out there, because otherwise it's hidden, and you don't know that there's people out there who really can't put two and two together on some things. And then also, there's a flip side. Sometimes conspiracy theories are actually true. And they're proven to be true. So you don't want to stop people from thinking about stuff. Sometimes it's somebody is so convinced of something. And sometimes people are convinced of a conspiracy theory so much, they do so much research, they actually find something else out. Not that this proves the conspiracy theory, that actually proves the conspiracy theory is correct, but not for the reasons everyone is saying. All right. Yes, who decides what's bad or good? That's correct. Any thoughts on Kamala's president bid announcement, re-race within Democratic Party? Didn't discuss that tonight. We'll do that on another night. Your videos are all harmless, just how a gun is harmless, as Andrew. Right until you shoot a gun on the guy's face. See, all right. Let's see what else. All right. I think we're going to end it here. Oh, we just got into a 1 hour. 1 hour. We hit an hour. So I want to thank everyone for joining me. Remember, if you have worthless fiat, toilet paper, those dollars whose days are numbered, send them to me by check. You can send checks, you can send cash, and I will take them off your hands. Or you can become a Smaulgld patron, you can go to PayPal. But the easiest thing to do is to get out your smartphone, and you can use your smartphone wallet if you have any Bitcoin or Litecoin in them, and make your donation that way. It's much appreciated. I appreciate all your comments tonight. And tomorrow we'll start with the what Prashanti girl just did, the 3 asterisks, so that I can call out comments. I mean, it's nice that you guys talk amongst yourself, but it's hard for me to follow, and I know you don't want me to comment on what you're talking about, so make it easier for all of us. So we'll see you tomorrow. Good night.